That had even jaded New Yorkers scratching their heads. A mysterious silver shiny object or object.
Egan described Gacy as rational, premeditated, and evil, who killed his victims
the nation. 900 people killed, including hundreds of children, and a U.S. congressman at the order of a
Area
religious
51
leader.
was actually started as a joke, but now officials are growing worried that people will start to follow through.
Yeah, it was almost exactly 5 years ago.
I shall call him Mini-Me.
So, hello.
Hello, everyone.
We got a mini for you.
We're so bored. We have many minis, and here's one of them.
Our topic for this mini is, drum roll please, psychics and mediums.
Ooh, fascinating.
Yeah. I've been super into this kind of stuff lately with like spirit guides and tarot cards and all this psychic stuff. So I kind of suggested this one and I'm pretty stoked about it. And I hope you guys enjoyed researching this one.
I did.
And yeah, cool. So I guess I'll let Lexy
All
take
right. So you may be wondering, what is a psychic? Well, I'm here to tell you. There's a person who uses their extrasensory perception, or ESP, to identify something that would normally be hidden from your other senses, particularly involving telepathy or clairvoyance, basically things that sort of defy the natural laws, like seeing the future or reading minds and stuff like that. So the word psychic is also used as an adjective to describe such abilities. So it's like a noun and an adjective and also a verb, maybe? I don't know. English. Confusing. I psychicked today. So it's kind of interesting. Psychics sort of encompass a lot of variety of roles. Some are theatrical performers. Like, I don't know if some that come to my mind are like America's Got Talent and like the magicians somehow do things to read people's minds. It's like, how the frick did they do that?
Yeah.
But another one that's particularly interesting to me are psychic detectives. So these are actual people who have helped solve cold cases or crimes using their psychic abilities. So I'll get a little more into that in a second. But yeah, just the history, I guess. So a lot of early seers and prophets can be seen in readings from like the Bible or other old writings. So they've been around, for a while, which is kind of interesting. It's like if you go back in history, you can see different psychics and foreseers and future readers sort of popping up in different literature. In pop culture today, of course, we have different movies about psychics and science fiction articles and whatnot.
And also like all the shows that we have, like
The Mentalist. I was just talking about that earlier with Kyle. I'm like, oh, that's a good show. But yeah, speaking of, so back to a psychic detective. This is a person who investigates crimes using their psychic abilities. So some examples of this include post-cognition, which is the paranormal perception of the past. So I'm assuming that's some sort of like hypnosis, trying to like pull things out to help people remember things. Some telepathy, clairvoyance, or remote viewing. So in murder cases, psychic detectives may claim that they have been in communication with the spirits of the murdered victims. And there have been some interesting cases where someone was murdered, the psychic then contacts the murder victim and are then given very specific information about where the body was buried or what they were wearing, and then investigators then end up finding the body. The skeptic in me is like, was the psychic the one that murdered that person? I don't know.
That would be my first question.
Right?
Yeah.
But, you know, if they flew all the way from Colorado because that's where they lived and they've never been in California before and you can never prove of them being in California before and they're like, this is everything I know. You're like, okay. Like,
but
all right. Otherwise, it's like,
exactly.
Working for.
Another interesting thing that I was looking up, suggested by Angela, was sort of the CIA's involvement in mind readers or psychics. So during the Cold War, the U.S. government was really vouching for a new weapon against the Soviet Union, which was mind reading. So this was, at the time, a classified project conducted in California in the 70s. And the Army and, like, the CIA and Defense Department were recruiting men and women who claimed to have the ESP or psychic abilities and basically try to perform different experiments on them or figure out whether or not they could mind read. And there's this one guy, I'll upload this picture to the drive, but his name is Uri Geller, and he had the ability to bend spoons with his mind, allegedly. And this, I'll put this on the drive, but it's a picture of him holding a bent spoon, looking really concentrated.
that is a very specific talent.
Yeah, but it basically just sparked a lot of different investigations. But again, most, like, scientists are like, oh, it's just a pseudoscience, it's not real. But I don't know. Again, I think there's things science can't explain. I think people who claim that they have a sixth sense, they just might. So, yeah, that's a little history of the psychics.
I feel like with stuff like that, it's like your instincts almost. Like, you know how, like, dogs and cats and animals in general kind of pick up on things, like human emotions. I feel like we have that ability, but our mind has, like, suppressed it so much because we focus more
like
on,
logic
what we see
and stuff like that. But no, like, premonition and intuition. I think, did I talk about this? Like, gut feelings that got people out of weird situations. So I think it's definitely a real thing. And I feel like that's sort of falls under the umbrella of psychics, maybe. I don't know. But yeah. There's some information for your brain.
Unexplained phenomena that makes you think a certain thing.
Yeah,
I believe in it.
Who fucking knows?
There's different levels to it. Well, here's a fun little story that I have to break in between Lexy and Angela's information. So I went on to Reddit and just kind of looked at people's responses to being with a psychic or a medium or such of that nature. And one here in particular was from AshleyMegan00. And she posted, "This tarot reader at my husband's company party." Oh, I deleted the first half of this sentence. Anyway, she's at her husband's company party and there's a tarot reader there, and so she didn't really believe too much in tarot at all. I saw this lady at the company party and was like, it's free, so let's do it. So I sat with her and she had this old deck of tarot, nothing like the ones you see in the shops. She did a small spread, and the card that represented my near future was the wisdom card or the professor card. She said she saw me getting into a teaching role, etc., etc. I got chills because I was like, whoa. I had been thinking about getting into teaching, so that was that, and I thought that was cool. Later that month, I shit you not, I got an email from the department chair of my former graduate program asking me if I would like to teach in their program that coming fall. I never applied to anything, hadn't even started looking at how to apply to teach in a college setting or anything. So yeah, it came true, and now I've been teaching grad students for over a year now.
Wow, that's awesome.
Wow. That's like...
Goosebumps.
So, yeah, I love stories like that. So I'm going to cover the different tools that psychics and mediums use, including tarot cards. So first I'm going to talk about crystal balls, which I think people, when they think of a psychic, they usually think, oh, look into my crystal ball, you know? And the reason why that's the case is because crystal balls have been used for at least 4,000 years for divination. Yeah, so the use of crystal balls continued past the Druidic tradition. So I guess like the Druidic, I think that's like Scottish or Irish, I don't know. It's like a old Celtic religion. So Dr. John Dee from 1527-1608, he was a royal advisor to Queen Elizabeth I. He was a scientist, an astronomer, mathematician, and geographer who was also a philosopher involved in alchemy studies. He used crystal balls in his work, which he believed would aid in communication with angels. A quartz ball that once belonged to Dee now resides in the British Museum. So the ancient Greeks used reflective surfaces such as pools of water to help with divination. 2,000 years before the birth of Christ, British Druids used crystal balls for divination. Transparent beryl, which is a natural gemstone that comes in all colors, was used as an early crystal ball, but in the Middle Ages, crystal balls shifted from being shaped in beryl to crystal, which is more reflective. So they were also used in other parts of the world. The third largest crystal ball, the fun fact, is now housed in Penn Museum, and it weighs 55 pounds. It's a huge balls.
That's more than my dog weighs.
It was created for Empress Dowager Cixi during the Qing Dynasty in the 19th century. So the art of gaining information from looking into a crystal ball is called scrying. Most people associate a gypsy reading a crystal ball as a symbol of mystical power. Other people may remember the scene of Wizard of Oz when it shows the witch watching the actions of Dorothy. So the reality is that crystal balls do not possess actual power, nor do they show scenes like you would see on television foretelling the future. However, a psychic, while in a trance, may see different images in his or her brain while in a light trance. So these images can be concrete pictures, symbols, or vague impressions. What these images convey are information about situations you are facing and guidance for how to resolve your problems. So it's pretty much like the reflective surfaces, I guess, kind of help psychics get into like that kind of trance. And so that's why they use like the reflective surface of a crystal ball. So there are three types of clear crystal balls. There's the natural quartz crystal, laboratory grown crystal, and glass. So natural quartz crystal balls are cut from naturally occurring veins of crystal, and these can have inclusions or cracks in the crystal and veils cloudy wisp within the crystal, and apparently these faults kind of help the readers in divination. Other crystal balls have their uses as well. Amethyst balls channel spirit energy and are effective in communicating with spirit guides. They're also helpful in interpreting dreams. Rose quartz balls are helpful in issues of emotions of the heart and can help in healing of emotional hurts and fosters forgiveness. Smoky quartz helps in grounding and clearing negativity. Obsidian is a power crystal that aids in reflecting what the soul's and self desires. And there's malachite, which is used in revealing past life connections. So there's like a lot of different crystals. They have different meanings and benefits. And while some of the stones are available as ball form, there are actual crystals that are sold that psychics use just to kind of channel that energy. Okay. So I guess holding crystals or placing them on your body is thought to promote physical, emotional, and spiritual healing. So that's another tool. Like other than just crystal balls, they might use just crystals. And so this is because I told you I've been kind of getting into this lately. I have this like crystal bracelet that I always wear that it's adventuring, and this stone is supposed to promote luck, and it's supposed to also release old patterns of habits so that you can have new growth, and it brings optimism and a zest for life and creativity. So that's why I got it originally. And personally, I enjoy wearing it because, I don't know, it just kind of is a little reminder to myself. And unsurprisingly, though, even though I really like crystals and stuff, researchers have carried very few conventional studies on crystals, but one study back in 2001 say that it's mostly just a placebo effect, which is, that saddens me, but
working.
But I'm like, it like kind of just reminds me.
Well, you're putting that energy into
Yeah.
it, and then it's reflecting back at you.
And it's like the mind is a powerful thing.
Yeah.
So aside from crystals, the tarot cards, I'm sorry, I have a lot of information on tools today.
Beautiful. Bring it.
So tarot cards are, they're first known as triopheny or tarochi or tarot. And it's a pack of playing cards that have been used since the mid-15th century. It started in Europe, and it actually started as a bar game. Like people, they actually used to play cards like normal like poker type of thing, but it turned into like a thing of divination in the late 18th century. And so, like common playing cards, the tarot cards has 4 suits, referred to as the minor arcana. Each minor arcana suit is associated with one of the 4 elements and has a particular set of qualities distinct from the other 3. So there's cups, which represents water and interprets emotion, spirituality, and creative flow. There's swords, which is associated with air and it interprets mental activity, intellect, ideas, and communication. There's pentacles, which is associated with earth and it represents tangible physical reality stuff like property, money, work, health, and practicality. And there's wands that represents fire and interpret your energy, action, and ambition or motivation. So each minor arcana has 14 cards, numbered ace through 10, then pages, knight, queen, and king, and each of those have like their own meaning as well. But along with the minor arcana, there are cards that are also part of the major arcana, and there's 22 of those, numbered 0 to 21. So that's like the wisdom card that was mentioned in Taylor's story. That's a major arcana card.
Okay.
Each of those has a standalone meaning, but as a group, they can be viewed as sequential. So it's a journey from beginning to completion, and beginning is card 0, which is the Fool, and completion is card 21, which is the World.
Okay,
and
would that like signify, would you have like a specific question of like, where am I at in my life? And if you have card 21, you're at the end of it? Or is it more like with a specific thing, like where are we with this podcast? Do we get like a 3 because we're still in the beginning stages of it?
I think it depends on the kind of questions you ask. Like, it's not going to be like, oh, this is the end of your life right now. It's more like you kind of ask a situation and try to be like specific about it, where you're like, okay, like what's the future, the end, or like the past, the present, and the future for this project. And then you can like put cards, and if you get like the World card in the present, then you might be like, wait, but I'm not done. But it might be like, hey, you should just wrap this up and move on to something else.
Okay.
You know, that kind of stuff. And for that, like, I'm gonna actually pull a card right now because I do have a tarot deck myself because I'm into this kind of stuff. And this is gonna be the overall energy for this minisode. I'm gonna shuffle, and it's gonna probably be a little loud.
That way you know she's really pulling a card.
I do like the noise though. Boom. We got the 2 of Pentacles upright. And I'm still very new at that, so I'm going to have to like flip over to my little book. They'll tell me what the heck that means.
Little book of knowledge.
Yeah. So 2 of Pentacles. Adept at juggling multiple activities or responsibilities, not getting overwhelmed or stressed out, handling it. Adaptable and flexible, keeping in balance for now. So that's kind of funny because we're recording a lot of
that is funny.
Today.
Yeah. Balance.
Multiple stories.
Productivity. Cool. Ooh. I like it.
Nice.
Well, thanks for that, Angela. To round us out here, I have a couple more fun stories from Reddit. This one is from Bob Catlove, and the post went, I was with my boyfriend at a party. My brother was hosting when I was about 23. My brother introduced me to a friend and told me he is, quote, gifted. I sat down with the guy and asked him what he saw in my future, romantically speaking. He said my current boyfriend was jealous of me and we wouldn't last as a couple. I asked if I would ever get married and have kids. He said yes, I would get married but not have kids. The boyfriend and I only lasted another year before we broke up, and in retrospect, I can see he was jealous of me. I got married 3 years ago, and around that time learned I am infertile.
Wow, that's like scary.
I don't want to know.
Yeah. That's like, ugh. Dang.
This is from the Sushi Cat. Once when I was about 15, I had a crush on a guy, and he, oh so tragically, started dating another girl in class. I did a tarot reading about it, hoping to convince myself that their fling wouldn't last. The tarot cards very clearly pointed to marriage and happy home life and stuff. 15 years later, those two people are happily married with kids.
Damn.
She's like, you know what, like, fuck these people, let me. And it's like, sorry, man, they got it right.
Hard. There's no way that, like, the post went on about more of, like, how she's like, there was no way that I could, like, switch it to mean anything else or find any wiggle room where, like, they would last for a little while and then break up and I date them and then they get back together, like, later on. There was nothing like that. Like, they would just work together forever. And that's what the card said and that's what happened. So that's kind of fun.
For me.
So I have one more story that I'm going to share, and it's from BRAR004. I don't know. So my friend and I were walking along the beach and passed a palm reader's place offering palm reading for $10 a pop. My friend said, "Oh, let's try it. I've always wanted to." And I obliged for shits and giggles. I feel like that's something we would
palm
definitely
reading.
do.
Why the fuck
and
not?
I would be the one pushing for it more. The old lady was high as a kite, so I was like, ooh, this should be fun. She started off by saying a lot of things that were true, but likely apply to many people, so I wasn't really super impressed initially. Then she looks at me and says, quote, "You're having menstruation issues right now, but a pregnancy is coming very soon," end quote. This is where my eyes got huge, and I looked at my friend in disbelief. I was in fact having crazy, irregular, and long periods for the past few months, which is not normal for me, and my husband and I had been trying to conceive for about a year, including 2 failed fertility treatments. I thought to myself, yeah, right, we've been trying for a while, but if you say so. 2 weeks later, I found out I was pregnant. The menstruation comment was so specific, and had my friend gone first, it would have been totally off, so it's pretty crazy that she hit the nail on the head with me.
That is so cool.
Wow. Have you guys ever seen a psychic before?
No. I think I'm kind of afraid to.
Well, I've never, like, went to an official one. I went to, like, those little machines with the, like, psychic in the box with the robot. And
what is it? Zubar? That one guy?
Yeah. Or Esmeralda.
Esmeralda, that's a great psychic name.
And then also, Lexy, do you remember when we went up to visit Whitney's
and her cousin
gave
gave us all tarot card readings? That's when I kind of that's when I feel like we all kind of got into tarot cards, and Maria and Whitney are still pretty into it, and now I'm kind of like, I don't know.
I'm good. You guys can all be into it and read into it for me, but I don't need to.
Because I've read other things. It's like tarot cards can also do the same thing a Ouija board does, like open doors to other things, and I'm like, I feel like it's a lot hard. It's just like, fuck. Because it's just like opening a door to, but if you do it properly, I don't think it's as, like, detrimental as a Ouija board.
It's like, I'm just
Angela,
looking at my cards now.
Angela, don't go opening any portals.
Too late, guys.
Yeah, that's
what I'm talking. Just kidding. I actually saw a psychic after I graduated from college, when I had tried to, like, move out to New York. By this time I decided, like, I'm not going to be living in New York and I'm going to come back to California. And it was like the weekend before I left, I was visiting my sister in DC, and we went to this little, like, marketplace, like a flea market type thing, and there was a psychic, so I talked to her for a little bit, and she was pretty accurate, because she was like, first she did, like, a general, like, oh, this is your personality type, and I was like, yeah, that works, whatever, and she's like, are you moving? Like, I see, like, you're changing locations, and I was like, oh, I'm going back to California, and I was like, okay. And I wasn't, like, wearing anything that would indicate that, you know? So I was like, all right, okay. And then she was, like, talking about, like, my life growing up. And she's like, your mother, she's an Aries. Huh? I was an Aries. And, like, she was like, she was just talking about like different, like, I don't know, so it was really weird. And then she talked to my sister, and she named the sign of like my sister's like 3 last ex-boyfriends, like consecutive, like every sign. And she was right, and I was like, that's weird.
That's very specific as well.
But yeah. Anyways, I think that wraps up this mini-sode.
Until next time, friends. Bye.
Bye.